Welcome to the Michele Tafoya podcast. This is a book called Domestic Extremist, a practical guide for winning the culture war. Spencer Clavin wrote about it. In an age of absurdity, jokesters are the best truth tellers. Peachy Keenan's online wit conveys real-life genius. Real-life genius. Well, Peachy Keenan, the author, joins us next.
Now, it's time for some sanity. It's the Michele Tafoya podcast.
We are living in a weird time. We talk about this all the time on this show. We don't know how to define what a woman is. Somehow we know how to define what a man is, but not a woman. I'm not really clear on why that is. Our politics are like in a place that I don't think they've ever been before. We're just a society and a culture that seems to be fighting an internal war. Well, an author named Peachy Keenan has written this book, Domestic Extremist, a practical guide to winning the culture war. So if you feel like you're behind in the culture war, she's going to give you some tips. She's going to join us in a minute. First, breaking news. Genucel has upgraded their most popular package to feature their top-selling deep firming vitamin C serum. I love that stuff. Plus, ultra retinol moisturizer with natural retinol alternative. Right now, take advantage of this limited time package upgrade for 70% off. So why waste time and money, going out and getting injections or other kind of work done when you can have this stuff delivered to your door and it really works? Here's a Genucel.com review from Robert in Texas. I purchased Genucel as a gift for my girlfriend. She said she saw results so fast, so we joined the concierge program immediately. It's honestly the best skincare she's ever used. She's extremely impressed with all the Genucel products. Her skin is noticeably softer and smoother. I can see and feel a difference too. She was already beautiful, and Genucel has made her more beautiful. Well, I concur. I love all of their products. Genucel's secret is this family recipe that's been around for about 20 years. It makes it safe for all skin types. Hey, it works for men and women. It's made by a compounding pharmacist in small batches. It's always safe, cruelty-free, and natural. So go to Genucel.com/Michele. Do this now. Save over 70% off Genucel's most popular package. It features that Genucel Ultra Retinol and the Genucel Firming Serum, both of which I swear by. Don't wait. Go to Genucel.com/Michele with one L, Michele. Save over 70% off. Genucel.com/Michele. Get a complimentary spa essentials box with every package order, plus free upgrade to priority shipping. Genucel.com/Michele. Genucel.com/Michele. Peachy Keenan joins us next. Peachy Keenan, welcome so much to the show. Welcome so much. Big welcome. I'm really enjoying the book, Domestic Extremist. How has the response been?
It's been a really amazing week. It came out a week ago today. And honestly, the response has been overwhelming. I'm like so much enthusiasm, so many great reviews. People seem really excited about it. I was not expecting that at all. I mean, I was really more worried about like the pushback or like, I would get like hate messages on Twitter. And so far, it's really just been like a love fest. So I'm pleasantly thrilled.
Yeah. I'm so surprised about that as well, because you really do push back on some narratives in here. And there's some, narratives that are really popular with the other side. Right off the bat, you go into, being a woman today in this society and what's been sort of taken from women. And, I just spoke at Charlie Kirk's TPUSA Young Women's Leadership Summit.
Awesome.
And I kept mine fairly generic, just about here are some things that I hope will help you get through life in a peaceful and happy manner, and one that's purposeful and fulfilling for you. I didn't really do politics or anything like that. But I saw that Charlie just got hammered for suggesting, that, fertility has its limits and you might want to think about having kids if you're going to have kids. Why is that so controversial, Peachy?
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, these are things that used to be common knowledge. They were non-controversial within recent memory, and now they're just totally taboo. Like, you are not allowed to suggest things like fertility comes to an end. I don't know. I think, the science is basically settled on that. I mean, if you look at any reproductive medicine clinic or doctor, they're raking in the dough. They're driving Lamborghinis, okay, here in Los Angeles. In Beverly Hills, the fertility clinics, they're doing great. Why? Because women have been told, you can wait as long as you want, and you really can't. And I think that, that truth just goes against the narrative of, work, focus on your career, don't let a family, waylay you, delay you. This is the most important thing. This is how you provide value. And honestly, it's just really been like a smokescreen from the truth about what it is to be a female. Who even knows what a female is anymore?
I recently watched What is a Woman, the film, and I think I can't recommend it highly enough for people who haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's really, no matter how you feel on the subject, there are some stunning points of view that come across, and you're like, wow. So it's really interesting. But I think, are we going through a real snapback here? We look, it wasn't until 1920 that women got to vote, right? So women were very much in the house, raise the kids, cook the meals, sew the clothing. You can't vote. And then they could vote. And now since then, we go through the roaring 20s, right? We get to this point where the sexual revolution, all of these things. But now it feels, and you point this out in the book, as though, this notion of what it even means to be a woman is really, it's almost like someone put everything in a blender and put it on high, and you don't even know anymore. So what do you think it means?
Well, yeah, it's really been remarkable. And I think there is a snapback, like you say, a little, a pushback starting to happen with young women. You're even seeing like they're making TikTok videos about how they're dissatisfied with feminism, how it hasn't provided the happiness, the promise of, you can do anything. They're finding out that they really can't. They don't feel that way. They feel like something's missing from their life. They realize they have a maternal instinct that was somehow neglected and ignored. No one ever told them about the maternal instinct. It's very real and it's spectacular, and they're not allowed to even access that. And when they discover it, maybe it might be too late. And now they don't know how to go about even starting a family. I mean, the early feminists had a good point. Yes, women, I'm happy women can vote. Their initial, the motive behind their movement was to prevent women whose, let's say, husbands died from having to resort to prostitution to feed their families. And they wanted them to be able to work. That's fine. I'm a working mother. I'm a working woman. But there's no denying that to raise a family, someone's got to do the actual raising of the family. And you can only outsource so much. At the end of the day, you and your children and your general happiness are just really not very well served by the current state of affairs for what families have to go through just to raise their children and the outsourcing of it. No one's happy about it.
It really is interesting. I'm living proof of the idea that fertility comes to an end. We had a very, very, very difficult time because I put my career first. Yeah. No, it's, listen, I did. I put my career first. I didn't know. I didn't know until I went to a fertility clinic when the doctor sat there and said, I'd like to show you this chart that distinctly shows how women's fertility rates drop off at 35. This is what happens. You are now 38, and so your chances are going to be far less than when you were 33. So, okay. Now, fortunately for us, after many trials and tribulations, worst point of my life, honest to God, worst point of my life.
Sorry.
Not being able to have a baby. Yeah, it was awful. But somehow miraculously, we had a son. And then we said, now we get to adopt. And we went and adopted a little girl. So life is good. We built our family. Awesome. But, but I think, Peachy, had I really known, maybe the calculus of my decisions would have been a little bit different. But that does, that even saying it out loud makes me feel like I'm so old fashioned.
Right.
And it's just science, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm so sorry that you went through that. I mean, you're not alone. So many women go through that, even younger. And, I was doing a lot of research on this in the book, and I found that on these fertility websites where you can, donate your eggs or freeze your eggs, it will say in the fine print, warning, just because you're freezing your eggs doesn't mean you will ever be able to get pregnant later. Because guess what? you might freeze the eggs. You can't freeze your body. You're not freezing your uterus. Everything else is getting older too. And so it's just become this like, no one, you're only given a little piece of the truth and not the whole picture of how the female body works. And I mean, honestly, if I could go back, I would have started younger also. I didn't start having children until my 30s. And I very fortunately was able to have like the size family that I wanted, and even threw an extra one in there for good measure. But, one of the things I say in the book is that women in their 20s, I mean, these are your prime years. You're at your cutest, you're at your most charming, your youngest, and your most fertile. And I think women are right now happy to squander those years on, a string of randos they meet on dating apps. And I just think, what a waste that is.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I think, all of this comes down to values, and the values that different women possess are really something. If I suggest to some women that there should be a continuum, that there is by nature a continuum. You get pregnant, and right around 9 months later, you're going to deliver that baby. Now, a lot of pro-choice people will say, you're the one housing that baby. You ought to be able to abort it whenever you want in that space. I disagree.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy. And so while I believe that there is a period of time that some women in those situations who just simply can't mentally, whatever, can't provide for a child, ought to have the option to have an abortion. But I don't think it should go beyond 15 weeks. That's me. But people think I am like just the most conservative, trans, whatever, phobic, bigoted. They'll call me any name in the book because they think that that's radical. And right. I just wonder how you think we got here.
Well, I mean, I think it definitely started with the sexual revolution in the 60s, telling women that they can be like men and have a long string of relationships with no consequences. And the thing is that men have been only too happy to go along with that, consequence-free sex. They've been happy to be feminist allies the whole way through because they're reaping all the benefits and they don't have to, pay any of the prices. But women do. And I think that, in terms of abortion, obviously I talk about that in my book. I'm a pro-life Catholic. I think, yes, there's a discussion to be had about reasonable limits. I get it. I get, rape and incest and all of that. But yes, the idea that that it's somehow women's health care to think you can abort a 39-week-old fetus. I mean, that just seems barbaric. I mean, that's just common sense. But the ideology has trumped morals, has trumped, the human heart. Like we are in a world where that is just nothing matters but the woman's choice, woman's decision. And there are other people involved in this decision. It's like my body, my choice. Well, the baby has a body too.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this is such a hot button issue, especially right now. And with the Dobbs decision and all of that, it really has become a divisive political issue that so many on the left are using to fundraise and scare people, quite frankly. I don't know, man. There's so much in the book that made me laugh and that made me think. And I'd love to know how you came to decide that Domestic Extremist, a practical guide to winning the culture war, was the right book for now. Like this obviously, when you're a writer, something moves you to write. What was it?
Well, I wrote an article for the American Mind before I wrote the book. It was called "I'm Not a Domestic Extremist. I'm Just Extremely Domestic." And I think it was really in response to the pushback that I had gotten and some of my friends had gotten by having large families and living in a dark blue city. And, being accused, people give you dirty looks and they accuse you of being like, religious fundamentalists and just like this crazy, freak. And it's very weird to live in a place where you are some kind of outcast because you chose to exercise your fertility, early and often. And so that really came out of that article. I thought, domestic extremists, that'd be a funny title, like a little spicy. But then we saw over COVID, regular normal parents were called terrorists for like protesting in front of woke school boards. And the people who were going to the traditional Latin mass were on an FBI watch list, because they were like, that's a conservative parish or whatever. And so I just thought, well, this is like, there's something going on here in the culture where things that were considered normal, being a devout Catholic, having more than 3 kids, monogamous marriage. Suddenly these are like extreme positions to have. But I just feel like we're the normal people. So I just thought the title would be a funny kind of ironic way to frame things.
It is. And, I, in getting ready for this interview, I perused your Twitter feed too, just to kind of get a sense of the things that speak to you. No, it's good. Listen, no, look, if you're willing to put it out there on Twitter, that's right. Courageous. And it's, you know what you're going to get. This whole Trump thing that's going on right now, he's been accused. He's the first president to ever face federal charges. First former president to face federal charges. And there are, I think I've listened to reasonable people on both sides of this. Former Attorney General William Barr has said, Trump did this to himself. He's toast if this is correct. Some political commentators have said this is absolutely political. This is a sitting president going after his foe. And you have suggested that people should coalesce around Trump and support him, at least the other Republican candidates. And actually, I loved you put it this way. Oh gosh, I want to find it. You said something about if there were a bunch of other authors out there who were writing stuff like I did, and they got stomped down, and I, hopped up to number 1 on the charts, I wouldn't feel good about it. Do I have that right?
Yeah, basically. I mean, look, did Trump make a mistake with storing the documents or whatever? I mean, potentially, but that's a document issue. That is not a treason, or whatever they're calling it. I mean, it's so egregious what they're charging him with. And the prosecutor, Jack Smith, I mean, he is a known, renowned Trump-hating fanatic. His wife works for the Obamas. I mean, this is not, no one is above the law. Give me a break. Right. Yeah. Where Joe Biden, literally we have proof, smoking gun proof, that he's accepting millions of dollars of bribes from foreign companies, foreign countries. That's never, talk to me about Trump when those crimes that actually do risk national security, which actually do put us in great danger. Talk to me about Trump when those things are taken care of. Did Trump burn documents? Did he delete documents like Hillary Clinton? No. Did he sell documents? Was he selling secrets? No. Joe Biden was doing that. So that's how I feel about it. It makes me sick. And it just proved, I think it's just a scare tactic to scare any of his supporters. If he goes down, they can get him. Who can't they get? Am I going to be put in a gulag because I wrote the wrong thing or whatever? I find it to be terrifying. And so my tweet is about, it's fine. Like, I'm happy there's wonderful GOP candidates, and there are a lot of great candidates. I'm sort of agnostic, about who wins. I don't think we have great chances next year. But it just makes me it makes me feel a little bit weird to see all these candidates kind of using his potential imprisonment to kind of boost their own political career. And wouldn't it be nice if the whole team could say, that's it. Like, this is beyond politics now, forget the election. This is not okay.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that in our culture that isn't okay. I talked earlier with a guest about cancel culture, that's probably a tame term for what some people have gone through, losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods. Oh yeah. For thinking the wrong thing, expressing the wrong thing. I thought this was America where freedom of expression and freedom of speech were protected. I've had a lawyer say to me, "Oh, due respect, but that's only the government can't infringe on your freedom of speech, but your employer sure can." Well, I don't know. It's getting to a point where I've seen really good people get thrown out of jobs, get thrown out of their careers. Because of something that they believe in, something that they want to express. And that, quite frankly, as you've said, 50% of the country agrees with, but the other 50% seems to be in control of this cancel culture. So
Right.
I don't know. I guess there are a lot of domestic extremists out there who feel kind of cornered and maybe fearful that they just want to
Right.
live their lives. What
Right.
would you tell them?
Well, I mean, one of the reasons I wrote the book was to build morale for all of us who feel like we're stuck in these foxholes. You know, we're all alone and we're hiding. And I mean, I was in the closet for a long time at work, and I would hear people talk about how they wanted all Republicans to die, and they wish the Republicans would just, you know, disappear, and we need to destroy, like, horrible things. And I would never, I was scared to say a word. And I think the main difference really between the right and the left these days is, you know, we don't want to hurt anyone. We want to be free. We want to be free to express our opinion. We want to be free to raise our families without interference, without being called a bigot or whatever. If we teach our children there's two genders, we don't want to be called these names. We want to be left in peace. The other side, and we're fine with people on the left. I'm fine having liberal friends. I'm fine having pro-choice friends. I really don't care if someone's cool, like, great. They are not like that. You know, the minute a friend or a colleague finds out that you are, you know, on the dark side, you're this fascist suddenly, you're this Nazi, and they want to go after you, and they want to, you know, yes, fire you, ruin your business, call you out, call your employer, dox you. They seem to be much more vicious, really, Frank, on the other side than we are. And I think that is because that's really the difference between the two sides. And so I'm hoping with this book, people can kind of have a little more moral courage. I don't recommend acting like them, but we certainly need to stop sort of like shrugging our shoulders and, like, you know, running away and scurrying and hiding.
Or also apologizing. I mean, the minute you apologize, it's not enough. It's never enough. They will continue and to come at you, and people are learning that in very difficult ways. Yes. I hope that this does do that. I'm a big believer in courage and standing up. And I'm like you, Peachy. I feel like, hey, I've got friends who are politically very different from me. I have other people in my life who have said that. When you said dark side, I laughed because I was invited onto a podcast of someone that I used to work with. And he introduced me as she went over to the dark side. Right. And I immediately realized I was being ambushed on this podcast. I was not on for the reasons that he invited me on. I was on to be attacked for my beliefs. And it was brutal. And I went through it, and I held firm, and I just said, you know, there was half of me wanted to say, you know what? This isn't a civil conversation. I got to go. But I knew what they would do with that they would try to make me look like a coward, try to make me look. So I just stood there, and I stood in there, and I took the slings and the arrows, and I fought as best I could while trying to maintain my calm. It's not easy for everyone to do that, but I think your book is encouraging that, to at least not cower. We need more courage, don't we?
Yeah. And I mean, I've been, you know, empowering some of my friends and family who have little kids this month in the LA public schools to opt their children out of, like, the Pride Month. You know, every day is like a new Pride activity. And it's like, it's way beyond just draw color in a rainbow. It's drag queens in the kindergartens. It's full scale indoctrination all day long. For like a week. And so a lot of them have opted out. They've took the kids home for the week. And they don't care anymore about the other. Well, what will the other parents say? I don't want to be, you know, what if I don't get invited to the birthday parties or whatever? People are over it. Like, they're done. And so you saw here in LA and Glendale, there was like a fight when Antifa, there was like, these are, you know, it's Armenian school district, basically Armenian American, and they're not having it. And Antifa attacked these Armenian dads, basically. And there was like a fist fight in the street over a school board meeting that was putting, like, highly sexualized content into the elementary school where it doesn't belong. And so you have to ask yourself, why do they want little kids to know about this stuff so badly? They really want little kids to know about what all these words mean and what you can do with your body, with whoever, anytime. And I know they're very courageous. And so I hope people read the book and realize, like, you can stand up, you can opt out. I don't want anyone to get fired. You know, if you're anonymous on Twitter, you can stay anonymous, but we do need a little bit more moral courage, I think.
I agree. You bring up the stuff about kids, and I think when parents start to see all of this stuff influencing not just their own lives, but their children's lives, some families are totally cool with it. They take their kids to drag shows. Okay, that's on them. That's fine. But to place it into schools where children are registered students and expected to attend, that's another matter. Now now you're in, I don't want to say you're forcing it, because as you said, these parents can take their kids out for the week, but think about that. Then they go back to school the following week and they're probably saying to their friends, what did you see? What did you see? Why did you go? Why didn't you go? I mean, it's there's a lot going on, Peachy. I feel like so overwhelmed sometimes by frustration and anger and just, so you feel that too? You feel like you wake up in the morning and go, oh God, is it over yet?
Oh yeah. I mean, every morning I wake up, I look at the news, look at Twitter. I'm just like, every day is like a new low. I feel like, have we reached the low yet? No, we haven't. I mean, on Friday, the Dodgers are going to be honoring, everyone's been talking about this group that the Dodgers are honoring at Pride Night at Dodger Stadium, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, which is a group that is notorious for mocking and spitting on Catholicism and doing basically highly sexual strip shows with Jesus and all this crazy stuff. And they're getting a community award, and everyone's like, "Oh, these homophobic Catholics, they hate gays." There's been a Pride Night for 10 years at Dodger Stadium. No one ever cared. It was fine. Like, we had no problem with it. It's this particular group that is being now held up as this family friendly, these folk heroes, these civil rights leaders. They are one of the main sisters is a hardcore pornography director and producer in San Francisco. This is who we are now supposed to worship.
It's, not my only hope, but I hope that the pendulum is swinging so far in one direction that it has no choice but to come down and settle at some point here. And in the meantime, I guess people like you, people that we associate with and whose characters we admire, we will toe the line and hold the line in the meantime, and just hope that some sense of sanity can resume. This is a tremendous read. I recommend it to anyone.
Thank
Domestic
you so much.
Extremist, A Practical Guide to Winning the Culture Wars by Peachy Keenan. And you can follow her on Twitter at Peachy Keenan. It's really funny and it's really eye-opening, and it's a book for our time. And I congratulate you.
Thank you so much. At Keenan Peachy on Twitter, if anyone wants to follow me. Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
At Keenan Peachy, at Keenan Peachy on Twitter, at Keenan Peachy. You'll find her. Look her up.
Yeah.
It's a good follow, by the way. Thanks so much for being with us. This is the Michele Tafoya podcast. As always, like Peachy, be brave and do good out there. Little bits of good to counter the evil, and the courage. Everyone listening, be brave. You got to stand up. You got to. Otherwise, we'll all be, crushed. On that optimistic note, thanks for listening, everyone. Peachy, thanks.
Thank you so much, Michelle.